Welcome back to Chicagolandians, a casual Chicago sports podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Cunningham, joined by my co-host, Conor Cunningham.
We're two brothers from the Chicagoland area talking about the latest and greatest in Chicago sports news.
Welcome back to another episode of the Chicagolandians. I'm your host, Patrick Cunningham, joined as always by Conor Cunningham.
Hello, hello.
And on today's special episode, we are joined by Ryan Frank. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, known these guys for a while. I do know a lot more sports than them, so it's about time they let me on the show. But yeah, no, we got some history podcasting together, so I think this should be a good episode, and I'm excited for this. Thank you, guys.
Dedicated fans will recognize Ryan from the We Three Bears podcast, as well as the Wheat and South Sports podcast. So a couple hits from Ryan, a man familiar with the industry.
And you'll see the chemistry just flow between the three of us. That's from 3, 4, 5 episodes. We had multiple episodes of We Three Bears. I was looking back on those a little bit ago.
And that laid the foundation.
It walked so we could run.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep. But Ryan is, just like us, a very devoted sports fan. I would say Ryan blows us out of the water for his baseball knowledge. He's been a very talented baseball player, very talented football player. But Ryan, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your relationship with Chicago sports, some teams that you follow, some teams that you're really passionate about, that you pay closer attention to?
White Sox is probably number one. Bears, when the Bears are good this year, hopefully I'll get more to them. White Sox and Bears, I know. Honestly, you guys might know more about the Bears. White Sox are number one. And then Illinois, college football and basketball, kind of since I've been there, probably become like the second tier or like even tier with the Sox. I don't know. I'd say I'm a big baseball fan, and then probably college football and basketball are probably like my favorite sports. That's more my niche.
I feel like I was more diverse in my sports knowledge when I was in like elementary school, where I felt like I could talk about the Hawks, the Bulls, and the Bears, like all at the same time, because they were all doing good and they all had like distinct players. But if you ask me now to name, God, even like 3 players on the Hawks right now, like I think I would struggle doing that.
I think I only know Bedard.
Yeah, I'd say like Corey Crawford's probably still playing, right? Yeah, like Jonathan Tate.
Yeah, like Duncan Keith's still putting up minutes, right?
Aaron Hossa, yeah, some guys, right? Yeah.
It's just funny to think how much of a difference the success of a team dictates how much you actually care about watching the games.
I don't know. I mean, the Sox are like one of the worst teams of all time, and I can still tell you our entire 25-man roster probably.
That's insane. Man. The span of 5 years is just insane. Like if you think about like the Bears 5 years ago, like the different world that we were in of like Trubisky still being the quarterback, or like, I don't know, just like stuff changes so quickly with all this stuff.
But on today's episode, we are first going to cover some updates on the Bears. Our last couple episodes have been a little distant from our beloved Bears. We're going to cover some recent camp news, some recent media news, some things to look forward to in late August. And then we're going to get into the bulk of the episode, which is a all-time Chicago athletes draft. This is more of a looser style episode, something a little more fun, something for the kids. That's going to be us going round by round, drafting our dream teams of best, and I wouldn't even say best, I would say favorite Chicago sports athletes. You can really get hooked into the chalk answers with the lists of your Sammy Sosas, your hockey players that I don't really know much about. That's like, I didn't watch those guys when I was a kid. So it's more like your favorite players. But before we get into the draft, let's just cover some quick Chicago Bears news. The first thing we got on our docket is the Bears recently were announced as the official team to star in the behind-the-scenes NFL TV show Hard Knocks. I know the Bears are one of the last teams you have the option to like decline being a Hard Knocks team, and I know the Bears were super reluctant to be a Hard Knocks team for years and years and years, and now I think we're kind of just basically forced to do it, but I'm super excited for it. It gives you a great opportunity to look behind the scenes at what an NFL franchise looks like, how an organization is run. For this season particularly, obviously with Caleb Williams and a lot of new changes to the offense, to the defense, to the whole organization, I think it's going to be a really unique opportunity to take a peek behind the curtain and see how the Bears run. Ryan, what's your thoughts on the Hard Knocks? You excited?
Oh, I'm very excited. It's the first time like the Bears are cool again. Like just forever. The Bears were just always just so boring and like just had the plain jerseys. Bears are just boring. And now the Bears are cool.
I think I'm always, I addicted to any Bears content that I can get, and I feel like this will be an overload of Bears content. It'll be interesting just because like the way Hard Knocks is structured. I feel like they usually pick like whatever, like an undrafted free agent receiver to focus on. So it'd be cool to kind of like learn about these. Usually it's like me following Tanner Gentry on the Bears, thinking about like, oh yeah, Tanner Gentry from the Wyoming, he's gonna be the guy, or like following these guys. But it'll be cool to get like what Ryan's saying, media attention on us. I will say, like, Caleb Williams already gets enough about, like, whatever he does still on Twitter, just from, like, mad Vikings fans. It'll be annoying when, like, obviously more clips come out about him of just his personality and stuff, and people make a big deal about it. But overall, more content is, like, great, and I think it'll be a great time.
I feel like what I heard last year was how good of a leader of men Eberflus is and how he's able to, like, command this defense, which... For me, just looking at Eberflus, I have a hard time believing him being this leader, like alpha in the locker room. So it'll be interesting to see his coaching style and see like what I don't know how he commands that type of respect.
He heard these comments and he came into camp with the cool haircut. He came with the cool beard. He got chopped up. And
I was going to
like
mention
an
the
alpha
haircut.
man. Yes, I think that's something that we can't leave aside. He had a glow up. He looks great now.
Yeah, I'm just looking forward to kind of seeing what Eberflus was like.
Obviously, you get a little worried about having a young QB with a lot of cameras in his face and like maybe that being a distraction. But I guess Williams has had that, his entire career. I think he's definitely used to it. But no, something to look forward to. I remember watching the Rams and a little bit of the Chargers Hard Knocks during that COVID or during football, like junior and senior year of football with you two. Those are always fun times to watch that.
The Lions won a couple years ago. I watched that. That was pretty good because like Dan Campbell is awesome.
But the next little piece of news we got is a little bit trip back down memory lane for the Bears. A Bears great, in my opinion. Someone that, maybe doesn't have the stats or the accolades, but for a brief, like 3 or 4 years, he was unbelievable. We have Tariq Cohen, who, running back for the Chicago Bears, was originally started this season on the Carolina Panthers, where it was released, but was now picked up again by the Jets. I thought that was just an interesting, fun little take. Tariq Cohen I think he's had a tough life. He's had some tough family issues and then has a lot of injuries on the field. And it's nice to see him back, and you wish all the best for him because, man, when he was on the Bears, he was electric. His punt returning abilities, he was so shifty, so fast, so electric. Just fun to reminisce a little bit about Tariq Cohen.
I know. Everyone, I feel like, will remember that kick return he had, or punt return he got against the Niners, where, he was running backwards forever, turned it around, got back. But yeah, he just feels so really tough journey for him. He was on the practice squad for the Panthers, never made it into a game. And it's just tough. He had popped his Achilles on the Instagram Live when he was trying to like rehab, come back after I think he got injured against the Lions or something. But yeah, wish all the best, especially with the new kickoff rules. People like him are getting opportunities. So yeah, wish him all the best.
Yeah, when you guys told me this news, I was flabbergasted. I cannot believe. I mean, I'm trying to find here. I can't tell if it's like an actual contract or just like a training camp invite. But good for the guy. I wish him all the best.
It's always funny to see some of these players that you haven't thought about in a couple of years, and you think like, oh, I guess they're still in the league, or they're still trying to make it work. So yeah, great to see that he's still kicking. But if you guys have nothing else to say about Hard Knocks or Tariq Cohen, I think we're ready to jump into the Chicago Athletes draft. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah, let's get going on that.
Let's get going.
Let's roll. So some quick high-level rules of the draft. We slated for 4 rounds, might go to 5, depending on how the draft goes. The draft order, we're doing a snake draft. Conor has the first overall pick. Ryan, you got the second. And then I'm coming around with the third pick. Rules, any athlete that has played on a Chicago team, or, if you say the athlete's name, distinctly a Chicago person.
Has a strong connection to Chicago.
Yes, strong connection to Chicago. But yeah, with that said, Connor, I'm gonna start the clock on you, and you're up first. You get to go.
When I was told I had the 101, it made me feel a lot better. And obviously, this is a draft where you just want to draft players that you've had a connection to. And while this player is not somebody that I watched distinctly in my childhood, it would be wrong to pick somebody else. You got to give him his laurels. But number one, I'm going to take Michael Jordan, arguably greatest athlete in any sport, you could argue, but definitely, from being from Chicago, you can't argue that he's not the greatest of all time. 6 NBA championships. His legacy that he has throughout not just basketball but all pro sports is undeniable. And I feel like Jerry Reinsdorf fell into Michael Jordan. He turned Chicago sports into what it is, and the Chicago Bulls have never been what they were since. I think he marks a true corner piece of the entire city of Chicago. When we were abroad this past semester, I feel like we would say from Chicago, and most people would only know about Michael Jordan as their one fact about Chicago sports. So I think he spans all, he spans everything. So yeah, number one is going to be Michael Jordan. And you know what? If that's chalk, come and get me. But that's who I'm taking. All right.
Hey, you don't have to
it's a good pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, my mom was like saying the other day, we were talking about NBA or something, and she's like, I remember like when she was growing up and like the 90s Bulls were a thing, even my mom, everyone like the Bulls, like you revolve your schedule around the Bulls to watch a game. So I'm thinking like even the whole NBA now, like I just can't imagine like the NBA just like being as big as it was back then. So yeah, it's definitely something that, we wish we were alive for, we have to witness. But the documentary, The Last Dance, that was awesome. I got to watch that again sometime. Did you guys watch that?
Oh yeah, definitely watched it. That was during COVID. I feel like we were watching everything, anything.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, crazy to see his relationship with sports and how angry he would get, how everything he took so personally, and how
well at that point it became personal. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, just like for one, just how confident he was in his abilities, and just like he always knew that he could like change his whole strategy for the game around like demoralizing somebody. I just thought that was crazy. Okay, Ryan, we're gonna bounce past it to you at the number 2.
Okay. I don't know if I can get this guy later in the draft, but I think for the caliber player he is, it's a good fit here. I'm going with the Galloping Ghost, the Wheaton Iceman, Red Grange himself.
Red Grange.
Interesting.
I'm not going to make it back to you. I'll say that.
Went to high school at Wheaton High School. He basically broke every record imaginable, and then went to Illinois. I think he scored like 4 touchdowns in a quarter. And then he played on the Bears. It was the start of the Bears. So Red Grange definitely qualifies as a Chicago athlete, and also qualifies for this podcast as a personal pick. And I will say one asterisk, he was defeated by some chummy frat boy at a halftime of a game this year. I don't know too much about that, but we can maybe put something on the social medias.
We can put in the show notes,
We can put a video of.
Put a little asterisk. But Red Grange is my pick.
Good pick.
Okay, good pick.
Would have loved to see him play in person.
God.
One of the biggest what if, yeah.
It's so funny. I feel like if you leave Illinois, if you leave like Wheaton or like Chicago, I feel like the name Red Grange does not hit home for a lot of
does
people.
Not register.
But I feel like in Wheaton, it's so funny that like our whole
For the
Wheaton
old
side,
guys too.
Oh yeah, everyone
All the
knows
old
about it.
geezers.
Yeah, the Iceman, Galloping Ghost. Our football coach would tell us every story in the book about what type of guy Red Grange was.
That's what I would call myself when I spent this entire year barbacking, getting those ice buckets. I'd call myself the Wheaton Iceman.
Yeah, there you go. Did a lot of people understand that reference, or is that a
Just a few.
the real ones?
I think Red Grange might be the only player that will be on this list who played before the 40s. Like, you know what? Just a great institution. I feel like in the Wheaton area, but yeah, Chicago sports as a whole. No, good pick, Ryan.
I think went on to be an actor too. I think my dad would always tell me.
Yeah,
that,
I think he quit football because he got paid more to be an actor.
Yeah, tough time in the 30s playing football, but hey, great play.
All right, so we got Red Grange, Michael Jordan off the board. Now I know, Connor, we've all talked about drafting players that we have a close relationship with. And I would say this player I did not get to watch personally, but I think is such a, when you think Chicago athletes, there's someone, no one you can name, especially the Bears without talking about Sweetness. Walter Payton is going to be my pick. I think specifically for me, my dad is he's got about 2 or 3 athletes that my dad is committed to memory. That's Wilt Chamberlain, Gale Sayers. No, it's like Dick Butkus and Walter Payton. He knows every story
Dan
about
Hampton,
Walter
too.
Payton. I feel like I've heard all of them. Him, the hills, him doing like 15 miles up a hill or something. Him scoring touchdowns without his shoes on. Him just being, a freak, unbelievable athlete. Running back for the Chicago Bears. Best running back Bears have ever seen. Phenomenal athlete, phenomenal hair. Tragically passed away. Absolutely jacked. Seen some photos of him. I mean, that dude, unbelievable athlete. And when you see tape of him, I feel like sometimes, you look at photos, videos of old timey football, and you kind of think like, oh, maybe I could be out there. I could play. Sometimes when you see like how, I don't know, everyone's pads are huge, everyone looks a little clunky, but when you see Walter Payton play, you're like, holy smokes, that guy looks like he could still play in our modern league. He was so shifty, a maniac. But yeah, Walter Payton, sweetnesses. Number 34 is my pick. Walter Payton, bring up any memories for you, Connor?
I think he's just he's a guy, like you were saying, like even in elementary school, I remember, shout out Carson Whiskey. I remember he always would wear a Walter Payton jersey, and he's even a guy who you never watched in person, but you know the impact that he made. I feel like you'll look up any list of like top running backs, he'll be number 1 or 2. My dad will talk end over end about how Emmitt Smith's rushing record is a sham because Walter Payton wasn't able to play as long as him. Great, iconic player, one of the most iconic names and nicknames in all of sports. Walter Payton, great player. And 34 is a number that you look at and you think of that too.
Stand-up guy too. He's got an award named after him. Stand-up guy. The Walter Payton Award is for.
Oh yeah, the man of the year.
Yeah, man of the year. Like basically, just the best.
It's that
person
Walter Payton
of the year. Yeah. So I mean, a stand-up player.
I think we got a great first round here.
Yeah,
no, solid.
Michael Jordan, Red Grange, Walter Payton. And now, snake draft, it swings back to me. And, ooh. Now, I'm afraid this one Bears player is probably going to escape me. But I think it's too early to...
You took Walter
There's
Payton.
one other Bears player that I would take, and I don't want to take another Bears player. So I'm unfortunately going to have to pass on this guy. But I think for me personally, I have depth in Bulls knowledge. I know a couple of I feel like there's some greats for the Hawks that I can draft. There's like 2 from the Stanley Cup era. Sox is something I struggle a little bit more, so I feel like I got to lock in a Sox pick right now. There's another...
If you take Wilbur Wood right here, I'm dropping out of this draft.
We're going to go the hammer. We're going to go Frank Thomas with the number 2. Walter Payton, Frank Thomas. Pretty good. I think we got a pretty good draft so far. I remember my brother, Mike, he got to meet Frank Thomas on the field after a Sox game or something. They had some event. He got to take a photo next to him. And, man, that dude, ginormous. He is...
He's on that testosterone. What's that called?
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah,
he is in
eugenics,
some
right?
male...
Is that what it's called? Eugenics?
Yeah, something like that. And I think he's on some bike, and he's just like... he just looks like a giant on this toy little tricycle. He is humongous. But we had a Frank Thomas poster in the bedroom that I shared with Connor when I was back in my old house, and I always remember looking up at him. And that dude, I mean, best Sox player of all time, an absolute monster, a tank. Frank Thomas is my number.
I mean, the Big Hurt, what a cool nickname. And he was also one of the few athletes who I remember playing in backyard baseball. And when it was still, I forget the name of the producer, but he was in backyard baseball.
Oh, God, did I call him the Hammer? Oh, God, that takes away all my credibility.
No, he's the Big Hurt.
The Big Hurt. That takes away all my
Big
credibility.
Hurt.
The Big Hurt. Oh, God.
Did you say? Yeah, you said the Hammer. I didn't want to make a big deal about it, but like it is the Big Hurt. But
God, I thank you
He
for
said he's
still
not a
letting me
baseball
take
guy.
that. Yeah, I appreciate you still letting me take that pick. God, it's embarrassing.
it's been replaced with, let's see, Bobby Thigpen. So that's your new pick now. So.
Well, I'll still take Frank Thomas, despite, we'll have to do some voiceovers for that clip.
Frank, if you're listening, we're sorry, but we can move on.
I gotta find this Frank Thomas poster. I think the Frank Thomas poster we had... Okay, I'll do some research on my own. we can. I'm sure it said the Big Hurt, and I'm just misremembering.
I mean, he certainly was
But
a
Ryan,
hammer.
Ryan, you're free to go.
Yeah,
Number
let me get
two.
my pick. All right. So I think like on the big board, the next player is probably a Bulls player, but just using draft strategy, Connor's already got MJ, and he's got 2 picks after me, so he's not going to take. So I can get like a Bulls player in the 3rd round. So I'm going to wait on that here. So probably either Bears or Sox because not a Cubs fan, not taking a Cubs guy. I want to have Devin Hester on my team.
Is that the pick?
Yeah, I'm going Devin Hester. I mean, I know it's 2 Bears players, but I feel like if there's a 100-year difference between when they played, that should be all
Different
right.
sports. Yeah.
So
different sports.
like we didn't even see Devin Hester. Like he had the kick return to the Super Bowl. I don't remember watching that game, but like you still got to like watch Devin Hester. Like I guess like in his prime, like still making plays, and then you like learn about like all the stuff he did. Like before you start watching football, it's like God, this guy was awesome. And then if you watch I know it's not Chicago, but like his highlight tape at Miami, crazy. I think like one of the first Madden games I played, it was Madden 10 on the Wii, and Devin Hester was a receiver, and he had like max out speed. And like Madden games, like back then, it wasn't fully developed, so the speed stat just kind of like overruled everything. So I just do like 4 verticals and just bomb the ball to Hester, and he'd snag it every time.
Before we have Connor's next pick, I just want to take a quick moment to say that the Frank Thomas poster that we had in our room I just found it on the internet, it had the hammer behind Frank Thomas. So I know I was incorrect in saying his nickname's the Hammer, but I think that was just ingrained in my memory.
Look, man, you can say whatever you want, but like it doesn't change what you said. But like,
It was probably some like cheap poster, and they didn't have the rights to the Big Hurt, so they just put the hammer on there.
yeah, Frank Thomas Incorporated had it. Yeah, copyrighted. All right, so I'm gonna start off. So playing draft strategy here. I'm not gonna take a Bears player. Ryan was gonna admit, not expecting you to take Devin Hester there, but after doing some research, in the 1930s, there were 10 NFL teams in the league, and Arnie Harber held every passing record in the league for the Packers. He led the league in passes completed with 77, and the most passing yards he had was 1,200. So I do think it was a different sport, and he had 11 passing touchdowns. So, I think that's a different
1,200 on 77 passes? That's not very much. Never mind.
So I'm going to shift my eyes towards what I think was something that really impacted me as a young kid, especially in elementary school, would be the Chicago Blackhawks, especially the run that they had with the 3 championships that they had, 3 Stanley Cups. I feel like that was a distinct moment in my life. Like every time that playoffs would come around, and like you'd stay up late watching like a Game 7, like distinctly playing, like can still think about like the Bruins series, the Kings series, like the Flyers and all those series that you have that stick out to you, and like how attached you'd get to the goalies on the other teams, or how you hear all these names. But the guy who stuck out to me the most was always Jonathan Toews. So I'll take Toews as my pick here. I know it's not Patrick Kane. But I think Patrick Kane's currently playing on the Red Wings right now, and he's got some off the field issues that might not be the best. But I'm gonna take Jonathan Toews here. Toews is my pick. He was had his jersey. He was one of my jersey guys that I had. I always feel like he just represented a Chicago athlete, stand-up guy. Great captain, great leader, great face-off guy. Always a guy that, it was an evolution in your sports knowledge when you stopped saying toes and you started saying Tays. That was the first time that I kind of realized that jerseys read differently than the way you think they read. But yeah, Jonathan Tays is my pick there for the first pick.
Playoff hockey, there's nothing like it. It's so fast, and like, you can score, move up and down the rink so fast and score, and the game can change so fast. With power, I feel like there's such a distinct feeling of when it's a power play, and you just know the moment's coming when they're gonna score. When you're down a guy or you're up a guy, that just eventually something's gonna happen. But yeah, I remember distinctly the Bruins, the Kings, and then the Blues. I remember the Blues a lot, playing those guys. No, I think that's a good pick, Conor.
Yeah, man, I'm hoping the Blackhawks get good again because, like, when they're in the playoffs, yeah, it's fun to watch. Hockey's fun to watch, and if the Hawks get good, like, I'll try and watch games more. But good pick.
Also, to think about like how spoiled you get with fatigue of championship fatigue, where it's like year 3 and your third championship, and it's how quickly everything can fade, and now the Hawks are bad. Connor Bedard will be our savior, but all that stuff can be so fleeting. Moving on to my next pick. Yeah, so the board definitely shaken up a little differently than I expected. Some big names off the board. I agree. I'm going to shift my eyes to baseball, I think. I'm going to go baseball player here. I think there's 2 picks that I could have here of players that I remember distinctly, but I think this player, one of the heroes of 2005, Sox player, great stand-up player, great first baseman. I'm going to take Paul Konerko here. I feel like he's a guy who bled over into our... Paul Konerko is one of the few players that I feel like really bled over into like our era of like, he played till 2014, so like we still had a lot of exposure to Paul Konerko. I remember like when Andrew Vaughn was like coming out of college, people were like, oh, maybe he'll be like Konerko, and like no one, never being the same. Disrespectful, right? Yeah, I feel like Paul Konerko, one of the saviors of the White Sox, great player, one of the people that like sticks out in my head, watching 14 jerseys walk around, and great player. Excited to grab him for the team.
Yeah, Konerko's a stud, man. He had a homer, it might have been a grand slam. He had some big homer in the '05 World Series. I think, it was a grand slam. Just pimps it to left field. Yeah, it was a grand slam against the Astros. Yeah, again, I wish I was, I remember watching that game. I feel like if you're going to be a pick in this draft, you got to have like a moment or two that like signify like your importance to Chicago sports and what you've done like to win a championship, and that's the moment for Konerko.
I remember that clip where he got beamed in the mouth of the fastball.
Yeah.
I think he got up and kept his took his base, obviously, but still just like, I mean, insane how tough he was.
And then I think he hit a homer after that. I might just be romanticizing it, but
yeah.
Yeah, hit in face, and then he homered the next at bat.
God,
What a stud.
What a stud.
There's a John Boy video on it, too. I got to watch that sometime. Okay, so we're doing 4 rounds?
Yes.
4 rounds.
Okay. So I'll go Jordan Lynch, quarterback at Mount Carmel.
Wow.
Then went on to play quarterback at Northern Illinois, was a Heisman finalist, led NIU to the Orange Bowl in like 2013 or something. And then more Chicago ties. I believe he tried out to be a running back or a tight end with the Bears. But what he's doing now is he's head coach at Mount Carmel, and has won at least 1 championship there, probably 2 by now. And then he was on like the Barstool Chicago podcast, and I listened to it, and like I would love to play for his program, man. He just sounds like he's got that like Southside accent, like he's Jordan Lynch in Chicago, man. So I'm glad I got him on the team.
The Mount Carmel beat current Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy in the championship, right? When they had, I believe, Jordan Lynch's younger brother, right, as the quarterback. That's a great team that they had there. Yeah, great player. That's you know what? I like the pick, Ryan.
That makes Ryan has 1, 2, 3 football players / coaches now, but Ryan, you gotta get that. You gotta get some diversity on that team.
Ryan's 3 Bears players.
My 4th round pick, I'll make it interesting.
Yeah, dig deep here. Okay, well, I thought that pick was going to be a Chicago Bulls player, so I am going to now scamper up to the podium, and I'm going to just snatch up Derrick Rose right here. I'm going to run Derrick Rose right up the pick.
That's a good pick.
I think this could have been, your Scottie Pippins, your Dennis Rodmans, but those are not players for me. Those are not players that I would watch their highlight tape, but a Derrick Rose, you can watch high school, college, NBA clips of him, and he is just unbelievable. The greatest what if in Chicago Bulls history. What if he didn't tear his ACL? When you watch him play, he is so explosive, so fast. Holy cow. Can just jump out of the gym. I remember distinctly one of my favorite dunks. Favorite dunks, NBA history. Derrick Rose breakaway against the Knicks. He does a jump, turn around, puts the ball between his legs, dunks backwards. One of the sickest dunks. Crazy athletic. Even on an 8-foot rim, I could not do that dunk. It was so hard. Super impressive. Derrick Rose, still in the league now, I think. Has stuck around.
No, I knew that. What team is he on? Is it the Grizz?
He's in the Grizz, isn't he?
Yeah. Phenomenal player. Tore his ACL in 2012. But then, if you guys remember, he came back for a couple seasons on the Bulls. Do you guys remember that game winner he had against the Cavs, against LeBron in the playoffs? That bank shot 3. That dunk and then that Derrick Rose 3-pointer. Those are my two moments for D Rose. Just I had his basketball shoes as a kid. Chicago guy, had a tough upbringing, born and raised in Chicago. Such a cool player.
Youngest MVP in NBA history at 22, which is insane to think about.
I'm gonna be 22 next year or in September.
And I'm
not
in
even
no
close
position to
be
win.
MVP.
I got a lot of steps before I win an NBA MVP. I gotta start dribbling more. I'm working those Mikins back and forth.
Dude, going back to we're talking about how like these athletes are like doing all this stuff at a young age. When JJ got drafted, I played against this guy in middle school. I am the same age as him. He's now like, what's his contract? Probably like 30, 40 million guaranteed or something. Where did it go wrong? And he's engaged too. I'm doing the Chicagolandians podcast. Like, what happened? Time flies, man.
McCarthy's deal looks like it'll fully guaranteed for the first 4 years, coming in at about $21 million with a $12 million, almost $13 million signing bonus. So, pretty nice to be an NFL quarterback. Yeah, good for him, man.
Not bad. Pat, do you know the 3 nicknames listed on Derrick Rose's basketball reference page are? I'll just give them to you. D Rose, the Windy City Assassin, and this one, I don't know. It says Pooh, like Winnie the Pooh. Pooh. I don't know what that's about. Okay. So maybe, Pat, you drafted him. Maybe you could fill me in on that.
Well, I'm aware of D Rose. That one kind of writes itself, but Windy City Assassin, not aware of, and Pooh, not aware of.
I have no idea what the...
A large baby, he was nicknamed Winnie the Pooh by his grandmother for his size and skin color at the time. By age 2, he was simply called Pooh, which is what family and close friends still call him today. I call him Pooh. That's kind of what I call him. So, yeah. It's kind of like
apparently there's a movie or like documentary called Pooh, the Derrick Rose story.
Okay. Well, I think, honestly, I think this draft went just about as well as I would have liked. I think for my last pick, I'm going to round it out with a Hawks player. I'm going to draft Patrick Kane. Conor, the more exciting, cooler kids version to Jonathan Tays, I think was the just a little magician with the puck. Always scores. So fun to watch. Huge part of that. I think we won 3 out of 5, 3 Stanley Cups in 5 years or something. Unbelievable. Still playing. I think there's actually rumors that there's a potential reunion with him coming back to the Blackhawks. I mean,
Really?
I'm not going to do anything really, right? I think he's too old, but it'd be nice to think maybe he could offer some good mentorship to Connor Bedard, our new stud. But yeah, the future. Patrick Kane is going to round out my Chicago Athletes draft.
Okay, great good pick. I'm going to wrap things up. So, okay, when you think of Chicago, there's one sport to me that comes to mind. Well, so what do you guys think? Like, when you think of Chicago, what sport do you think of? No, not football. Like, not professionally.
Well, I guess my head goes basketball for MJ, but maybe I would think baseball.
Baseball,
maybe
yeah.
16-inch softball.
People in Illinois, like, oh, I know where you're heading. I like it, Connor. So my 4th pick goes by the name of Keith, nickname Pin Filkins. He is Keith Filkins, nickname Pin. He is, according to this article, known as the greatest 16-inch softball player of all time.
Oh!
Gonna read off some of his accolades. In his career, his 30-something-year career, he has played every position and received first-team honors for every infield position, a feat no one has ever accomplished. He won 10 championships and 10 Forest Park No Glove national titles. He's done everything. The one that stuck out to me, he won MVP of the league in 1986 and 2016. So,
wow,
30 years apart,
longevity.
Dude still got it, yeah.
Is he still currently playing, or is he retired?
It says Keith and his wife, Joanna, live directly across a softball field where Keith spends time teaching his children the fundamentals of softball. I think he still plays. Dude, you can play softball. You can play late. You're hitting. You might lose some of the power, but you kind of just gotta stand there and just poke one over the second baseman's head. And that's valuable.
It's all about placement. Oh yeah.
Now, why is his nickname Pin?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
Not to spring a question on you, I'm sorry, but
I just wanted to give some awareness to a sport that, to me, has become one of my favorite sports. Yeah, 16 inch is awesome. And it's crazy that there's all these leagues, too, like in Chicago. Like Wheaton, like, it's a serious enough league for it to be fun. But it seems like in Chicago, it's like some of these like blue collar workers, they're playing like 4 games a week, and it seems like it's a big thing. They got these different leagues. Apparently, there's like legendary managers that he played under. Like it's a big
Wow.
thing. So Keith Pin Filkins, not necessarily about him, but just kind of represents the sport of 16 inch softball in Chicago.
Some of the many legendary Hall of Fame managers, Jim Lang, Rich Melman, Ross, Rob
These are
Kubicki, I
household
could go on and
names.
on. Stan
Household
Patek,
names.
Bob Rafia. Yeah, I agree.
God, 16 inch is so fun.
I think Caitlin and Joey Filkins, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with those guys, but I think they could be great players too.
Man, that is crazy. You talk longevity with LeBron. How about 30 years apart MVPs?
Dude, yeah.
That is so impressive.
Yeah, 10
That is
championships.
honest-
What do you
is
think of
honestly
that?
Crazy.
Brady? How about that, Brady? Yeah, let's
That is
put
crazy.
Filkins in here. Yeah.
That is impressive.
Great pick, Ryan. And Ryan, I love your willingness to say these are the best athletes. These are the best athletes. And you know what? Education. I love that, Ryan.
Thank you. Yeah, I
And you
mean,
don't care what anyone's gonna say. You don't care about the lists,
no,
the
if you,
stats.
if you wanted, if you want to know who the best Chicago athletes are, you can Google that. If you want to know, like, in my opinion, who like some of the most important athletes are, and some names we should bring awareness to and represent Chicago sports, it's the best I can do for you.
I mean, you can't walk 5 feet in Chicago without hearing Filkins.
seeing some 10-year-old with a Filkins jersey, and you think that kid's the future.
Yeah. I mean, you see Splinters jerseys everywhere, but yeah, no, I agree. No, I
Okay,
love
Conor,
it.
your last pick.
You're
Okay,
trying
there
to
you
follow
go.
that up.
Well, so I can't take any 16-inch softball players, so I kind of have to X all
Can't
those
believe
players
Conor got
off my
sniped
board.
there, but
Yeah, so I kind of have to erase, flip my board over because I can't draft any of those players. But and honestly, I was gonna try to draft Hester if I was able to, but Ryan, you scooped them up with 3 Bears players, but it's okay. I think who I'm gonna end up taking is a guy. I think a lot of guys that I've taken here are stand-up guys. You look at the list and you think like these are players. These are players that respected within the league.
I'm worried about this one.
I'm gonna take Brian Urlacher as my last player.
The way you were prefacing it, I thought you were about to take someone that's not a
I
stand-up
thought you were
guy
gonna
or
take
someone
a
that's
troublemaker.
yeah, seriously.
Oh no! I'm gonna take Brian Urlacher here. I feel like in my young era as a football player before I had gained, when everyone was 100 pounds, I liked Brian Urlacher a lot as a linebacker. I feel like he's a guy who played the game right. I remember distinctly telling Mike, my older brother, that I thought it'd be cool if I got a barbed wire tattoo when I was in elementary school, and saying like, yeah, I think I want like a simple tattoo, kind of clean, like barbed wire on my bicep. But I wanted to be like Brian Urlacher, one of the greatest linebackers of all time, Hall of Famer, great player, and great Bears player. One of the many legendary linebackers, Chicago Bears. Yeah, Brian Urlacher.
Now famous for his billboards on Restore.
Great
Those
head of
are
hair.
everywhere, man.
Great head of hair.
Those are everywhere.
Now, you want to talk impact to the city of Chicago? Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about namespace? You can't draft Joe O'Hare without thinking about Brian Urlacher.
Okay, that'll wrap up the Chicago Athletes Draft. To run through the teams real quick, Conor, you ended with MJ, Jonathan Tays, Paul Konerko, and Brian Urlacher. Ryan, you ended up with Red Grange, Devin Hester, Jordan Lynch, and Keith Pin Filkin. And then I ended up with Walter Payne, Frank Thomas, Derrick Rose, and Patrick Kane. Now, I will say, I think, Ryan, you took the draft the most serious to heart, and you understood the draft better than I think I did. And I really appreciate your effort in coming up with fun Chicago players and having great stories to tell with each player. I appreciate that. But now to conclude this episode, we're going to do everyone's favorite segment. We're going to ask Conor and now Ryan some NFL players and see what college they went to. Now, for some little context, Conor credits a lot of his abilities as a person with a lot of knowledge about what college players went to Ryan.
My
I
sensei.
remember Ryan,
He's my
whether
sensei.
it's baseball, whether it's basketball, whether it's football, maybe not baseball as much, but always knows where they went to college. One of these two's greatest skills, and we're going to put them head to head.
Now, just to preface this, Ryan is in Wheaton, which is closer to Arizona, so some of the waves his waves might get there earlier than me, so just throwing that out there, but, just throwing it out there.
And I will say this game is always a learning experience for me to figure out what is too easy, what is too hard, because I don't really know. I don't know any of these. So I'm always impressed when you guys know them. But we're going to get started with the first athlete. So, gentlemen, whoever says it first, that gets the point. Okay, first athlete is Trayvon Diggs.
Bama.
Alabama. That was me 100%. That was Conor 100%. What are you talking about?
I don't know.
We're gonna have to go back to. We're gonna have to review that one.
Yeah, we can go ask New York about that.
Okay, we're gonna toss that one up to a tie right now. Oh boy, we're already off two.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
And we'll come depending on how we have 5 names. We'll see how these last 4 go, and then we'll have a tiebreaker if needed. Okay, wow, Bama. That was one I did not know. Okay, here we go. Next athlete we have former Vikings running back Dalvin Cook.
Florida State.
Florida State.
And
What? Are you serious?
Connor. No, okay, Connor, you are very delayed. That was very delayed on you.
There's a
Connor.
huge delay here. This is ridiculous.
When Pat said former Vikings running back, like that, my mind just started like a furnace just started rumbling.
The real tape will come out about this, but whatever. Okay.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll
Okay,
see.
continue.
Okay, so that gives Ryan 1, Connor 0. Our next athlete, we have safety for the Bills, Jordan Poyer.
Oof.
You know what? Give me a minute here. Give me a minute.
I got no
A minute. I was reading some stuff about him because he did an ayahuasca trip, and I was reading about that.
Yeah.
Give me a minute. I know he met his girlfriend. I think he slid into her. I guess they're married. Doesn't help with his college he went to though.
DBs are tough. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know this one.
Jordan. It's not a Big Ten school. Is it somewhere in Ohio?
Where'd he go?
Okay, it was Oregon State.
No.
Yeah, okay. I remember reading that. But it doesn't do any good now. That's a good one. That's a good one, Pat.
That was a good one.
Okay, next we got Cordero Patterson.
Tennessee.
Wow.
Yeah. God, Ryan. No. Ryan's a master. Yeah. No,
Connor, did you answer that one?
No, I didn't have that one.
Yeah, that one. Okay. So
fun.
Ryan currently has 2. Connor has 0. Connor, you still got a chance because this last one is worth 100 points. So we will see. But currently the score is 2-0. Winner takes all here. Last player is Von Miller.
Texas A&M.
Oh,
God dang it!
Giga Mags.
Ryan absolutely ate my lunch. Oh my god!
Wow. Connor?
I just didn't come to play. Man.
Okay. Wow, very impressive showing, Ryan. That was great. I would have lost my mind if someone got Jordan Poyer. So Ryan wins 3-0 to 3-0 and a tie point with Trayvon Diggs too.
Whatever.
Our former champion, Conor Cunningham.
Look, I never said I was a speed guy, but whatever. Ryan, you got to give him his credit. That was incredible.
But that'll do it for today's episode of the Chicago Landians. I want to take time to thank Ryan for taking time out of his busy day to make this podcast with his friends. Ryan, we really appreciate your time coming out here and recording this with us.
Oh, thank you. I've been waiting to get on this show. I was telling you guys before the show, I was listening to an episode, Cunningham was doing a podcast. I'll listen and be nice. And then I listen. I'm like, this is not bad quality. It's edited well. It's prepared and everything. The show today is kind of long, and this is more We Three Bears kind of style stuff. But it's good content. So it was a pleasure to be on. Hopefully, I was a hit with the audience.
Yeah. Well, that'll do it for today's episode of the Chicagolandians. For those of you who have made it to the end, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can check us out on Twitter or YouTube or now TikTok at Chicagolandians. And why not leave us a nice review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen. And, as always, to end the podcast, we love to say, hey, bear down.
Bear down, dude.
Bear down, baby.